We're back with another episode of the NEBRASKAland Bank Podcast. Today we chat with the Executive Director of NEBRASKAland Days, the one and only David Fudge. We learn about what we can expect this year for the annual celebration. And you guys, we have a giveaway for you. As you've probably heard, Luke Combs is sold out, but we have 2 tickets to give away, plus 2 tickets to Toby Heath for 2 lucky winners. Listen now for the details on how to enter to win. Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Ty.
Together, we are hosting the NEBRASKAland Bank Podcast. We promise this isn't some boring bank podcast.
That's right. We aim to entertain. Listen in every other Monday and we'll tackle topics like finance, business, sports, community events, and maybe even a course or 2 of great food finds.
We're always community-minded.
Every voice.
Every topic.
Every time. So turn the volume up, settle in,
and let's talk NEBRASKAland.
Right, Danielle, we're back here in the podcast studio of NEBRASKAland National Bank. How's it going today?
It's going good.
It's nice outside. Spring's here, summer's coming, which, that causes me to think about NEBRASKAland Days.
I'm so excited. I can't wait for some sense of normalcy and hot weather. It's nice today, but it needs to be about 10 to 20 degrees warmer.
Yeah, it's funny the things you miss when they're kind of taken away from you, isn't it?
Yes.
So I'm excited about the celebration this year. What's your favorite, as you think back to the concerts you've been to, what's a great memory or something from NEBRASKAland Days that's a great memory for you?
Oh, I've got a good one, actually. So I was probably in the 6th grade, I would estimate. I was pretty young. And when you're a 6th grader, you don't have anything better to do. So we went out to the concert super early. The whole arena was basically empty. So we were probably the first people through the gates. And it was me and just probably 3 or 4 of my little girlfriends. And we were leaning up against a fence. And a guy started hollering at us and waving us over. And in today's world, you should probably run if you see that. But back then we were like, what's going on? Well, it was one of Brian White's guys who was inviting us over to go backstage and meet Brian and the band. So I don't know what happened. I don't remember if they must have had a VIP, somebody back out or something like that, but they saw us just leaning up against a fence and invited us to come back. So we got to go back to their room and eat their food and just hang out with them and meet the band. And so I will forever be in love with Brian White. I swore that night leaving the concert I was never going to wash my hand because we shook hands.
Now, Brian White, he was pretty good. I haven't seen much from him in a long time.
I don't even know where he's at. I don't even know. It was him and Leanne Rimes that year, though. And we did not meet Leanne Rimes.
Cool. I was thinking back about my favorite NEBRASKAland Days concerts. There's a couple of them I remember. I thought Big and Rich just killed it. They were such a good show, and I've been a fan of them anyway, but the energy of that show was just phenomenal. If I go back to when I was a little younger and maybe I was kind of at that, just getting out of high school, college thing, but Sawyer Brown, I remember Sawyer Brown and Jeff Foxworthy opened for them. And what a great show that was. And I also remember I never knew Brad Paisley was such a good guitar player until he was here and I saw him live, and now he's more acclaimed for that. But what else are the other concerts that you really liked?
Oh gosh, Kid Rock will be one that I won't forget because, of course, he got rained out, and so he didn't come on until 10. But yeah, now I feel like I love to attend. I love to attend the rodeos and some of the other events, but I'm kind of passing the torch to my kids now who get excited and want to attend, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. One thing I really love about NEBRASKAland Days is the tradition and the repetition of it, consistency, and I don't mean repetition in a bad way. I mean the fact that every year, the events, even though they evolve, are still fundamentally, a lot of them are the same. And I think that's one of the neat things.
It's so fun. It just you just look forward to the time of year. It just feels like the town comes alive. I just love those 2-3 weeks.
Yep, I do too. And guess what? We have a very special guest today to talk about NEBRASKAland Days. So we have the Executive Director, CEO of NEBRASKAland Days here with us today, David Fudge. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
David, I want to hear a little bit about, you've been a part of this organization for a long time. Even when you weren't executive director, You've had involvement.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about the old days of NEBRASKAland Days and some of the old traditions that no longer exist. One childhood memory I have is it was at the mall, and I remember watching a guy get thrown into a horse tank. And some people who are new to North Platte or who who have moved here in their adult lives don't know about some of those old traditions. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so I actually started getting involved when I was in high school around here, and started helping and volunteering and things of that nature. And one of what you're referring to is the old West Shootouts. And the first Friday in May, of course, we start Dress Western Fridays. Ty's is a past offender of this non-Western wearing sort of thing. And
I could see that.
Yeah,
Ty.
I just, and it's really silly because now he has a belt buckle that goes perfectly with Western wear, because I know he won it last year. But anyway, for people that didn't show up in Western wear, you'd get hauled into the jail at the old West Shootout, and they would physically throw you into a horse tank. Now, of course, insurance being what it is these days, they kind of frown upon that sort of thing. So
darn it.
That's just one of the little things that went away. There used to be a series of outhouse races. People would construct outhouses on casters and run them through town. And just a lot of the little things, as we've evolved over the years, that have come less politically correct, have just kind of gone by the wayside. So you're left with what we have now, which is, as Ty mentioned a little earlier, still at its core, the Buffalo Bill Rodeo, the Frontier Review, the parades, the concert. And so it'd be good to kind of get back to that this year.
Well, I got to defend myself a little bit on the Western wear. I don't think it's like an intentional buck the system. Some days I just think I forget it's Friday when I'm getting dressed.
Would you like a reminder this year?
Oh, I'm gonna do good this year.
Okay.
But because I have been thrown in the horse tank, I've been put in jail, I've planted flowers, and I think I've paid some money somewhere along the way because of offending.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Friday. So I seem to be an easy target to the NEBRASKAland Days crew.
Yeah.
I used to be really good about it, and in recent years, I've kind of given up. I haven't done the Dress Western, so
it's kind of I do this every day sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just
for you, it's
just
easy.
Normal. It's one of the perks of the job. I get to wear jeans to work every day.
Yeah, that is a nice perk you guys have that we do. But I swear I'm going to to well this year. I'm going to be dressed.
I'm going to hold him accountable.
Perfect.
I'm going to have something special planned for you, Ty, if you break the rule.
If he fails.
Yeah.
Well, David, talk to us about this celebration. I'd like to get this topic head on first. Is the pandemic last year was obviously extremely difficult for you guys, and feel welcome to say anything you'd like to about that. But you've survived, and here we are, and we're ready to go. And talk to us about the pandemic and what that's going to look like with this year's celebration.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, nobody had a good year last year, right? I mean, we all altered what we did in some way, at least for some period of time. Our industry was unique in that we were the first to close and will be the last to reopen. But I do think reopening is coming. I think you're starting to see around the country events happen. We saw a baseball game here last week where the full capacity down in Texas. Cheyenne recently announced they were going 100% capacity with no restrictions this summer. We're planning a much more normal looking year this year, and it'll be I think you alluded to it. It's, you kind of don't know what you miss until it's not there, and then you miss it. And at least personally, I think there's some burn that goes on after you've done this as long as some of us have. But not having gone through it a year kind of makes you want to do it even more. So we're ready. We're starting to move some things around out there. The tickets are selling. I think people are by and large ready to go, and so I think it could be kind of a fun, crazy summer around here once the lid comes off of it. So, but yeah, it was a hard year, but it was a hard year for everybody, and we survived it largely in no small part to the type of support that we saw in our community. This organization was one of them that stepped up and made sure that we didn't go away, because there was a point last April when I started crunching numbers and I thought we could be out of cash by August. Which is kind of a sick feeling, but we're in good shape. We came out of it a lot better than a lot of folks, and we're healthy. So we have a lot to be thankful for.
And we're pretty proud to be one of the platinum sponsors of NEBRASKAland Days. I remember when we got ourselves to that point as an organization, Danielle and I were trying to remember how many years ago, but I would think we were able to move to platinum sponsor status probably between 15 and 20 years ago.
I think that's accurate.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And I remember us talking about it. That was a goal we had when the bank was started, was to get ourselves to a size and to a point where we could participate at that level. And we feel great about all the sponsorships we provide at the bank, but that one in particular is very special to us, because I think we feel like we had to work ourselves as a company to the point where we could do it.
Yeah. It is. It's a big ask, and we're very, very grateful for all the support we get And it's not just from here. This is one of the pieces of it, but across our community, I think we have a waiting list of people that want to be involved in that corporate program. And it's a very envious position for a lot of other organizations when they look at it and go, there's some envy there about what's been built. So we're grateful for that support. We couldn't do what we do without that support. It was very, very evident and obvious last year how important that was to us.
David, what is something that, like, putting the pandemic aside, I know we're kind of getting back to normalcy this year, but what can listeners look forward to in the future? What does NEBRASKAland Days have kind of in the pipeline?
One of the things we've really started over the course of the last decade, especially in my time in the job, is trying to improve the facility. The facility was built in 72 and by and large had not been altered for about 40 years. And so we really started to try and enhance the experience for people when they come to the show. There'll be a couple of enhancements this year, most notably in the front end entry area. Some of that old rock that's in that quad area, as we like to call it, as you walk in, will be gone. There's a project planned on the backside of that to kind of improve some of our vending. The most notable public improvement this year will be free public Wi-Fi at all our events. That's something that our new concert partner has committed to do for us. In fact, they're going to be in this week putting that stuff in. So that'll be a fairly major improvement. And then there's additional plans beyond that in our facility plans to go through. But I think importantly, for our organization, it's important to keep up the level of entertainment and the productions that we've been able to do. That's going to get harder because the landscape has changed, and the pandemic actually forced a lot more of that, maybe quicker than we would have liked it to. But so that'll get more and more difficult as we go along, but we've got good people working for us that help us get that stuff done. So that's kind of a quick snapshot of, I think, where we're headed.
Well, this year you've got huge acts, and we'll talk maybe more about that in a minute, but I'm really interested in learning more about how that comes together with booking an act and finding an act, and how do you get that done? Well,
so the festival cycle is 18 to 20 months long now. We start working on, in a normal year, we start working on, so for instance, this fall, I'll start working on the 23 festival. So we're headlong into 22 right now, but we work with partners in Grand Junction, Colorado, in Cadott, Wisconsin, in Walker, Minnesota, and in Topeka, Kansas. And we have, for most of those festivals, we have a common booking agent. So we'll start talking about where we think we're headed, what we might play in that October timeframe for 18 months later. And then around the first part of the year, we would start putting offers together, start seeing what the ticket prices would look like, what the financing would look like. And then the offers go in, and it takes 3-4 months in some cases to get those things approved and ready to announce. And so it really is kind of a long process. It's not always smooth. There's a lot of bumps in the road through that. There's a lot of give and take and all that. But ultimately, that's kind of how we come to a point where you can put Luke Combs in the smallest market that he's going to play all year this summer here in North Platte. So that's how that works.
I'll never forget, I don't know, it was probably within the last 10 years, I heard that Kings of Leon was going to come play, and I was a big Kings of Leon fan at the time. And then it was like, nope, never mind. They're not coming because they like blew up in fame. So what is that like when you are working on something and it kind of falls apart and you have to scrap it and come up with something new?
It happens. In fact, it happened last week on something we were trying to put together for 22. I mean, you literally just go back to the drawing board and you start the most famous one, and it was public, so I can talk about it, but we had Finger 11 booked back in 08 or 09, and nobody remembers who they are now, but at the time they were one of the hottest acts coming up in kind of that crossover rock category. And we booked it, we had it on sale, and their agent called us up and said, well, we're going to take them to Europe this summer, so we're not going to be able to play you. Well, that wouldn't happen today because we have contracts and a better agent and things of that nature. But we literally just started trying to figure out who was in the neighborhood in the middle of June that could come up here, and we managed to replace them with a band called Lifehouse, and that concert played, and it was actually pretty successful that year. So there is a little scramble. I mean, a few years ago, Lady A, there was a pregnancy in that band, and they had to pull out of that. That was the Kid Rock year. Then they replayed the next year. So there is some of that sort of stuff, and it makes you pucker just a little bit, especially when it happens in the time frame that Lady A did, which was February or March, if I remember right. And all of a sudden, your headliner is taking the summer off or doing something else, and so that can be a little hectic, but. Again, I think it goes back to we have good people that help us get that sort of stuff done, and we're kind of experienced in that sort of thing too. So just take a breath and just fix the problem. Work what's in front of you.
Now, how many shows will Toby Keith and Luke Combs played? If I know the world is volatile right now and a little bit unknown, but how soon are more concerts beginning to go, and how much will those guys have played roughly when they get to North Platte?
It'll still be pretty fresh. I mean, I think Luke's going to play some stuff in May. I think our industry by and large has believed that it would start working again sometime in the middle of late May, and then more robustly in June outdoors. We think the outdoor season is going to kind of bring our industry back. So my guess is the number is under 10 by the time they get here in June. We'll still be among the first big events that happen, certainly in the state, but nationwide as well. So there'll be some eyes around, and we're a little nervous about that, but we'll do the best we can with it.
That's pretty exciting for North Platte. I know I've got a son in college in Lincoln, and let's just say I think the Lucas House is going to have a pretty full second floor for the concert weekends because everybody's just so excited to come out. I mean, Luke Combs is literally sold out, right?
It's sold out. Yeah, I mean, it's sold out a couple of weeks ago, which is uncharted territory for us. I mean, there is a sellout number out there because we have a fire marshal limit and that sort of thing. So I think the common misconception is we can just go print more tickets, and that's just not how it works. It may have been that way in the past, but not in this day and age. And so, yeah, there's a hard number out there, and we're at that number, and there may be some inventory that gets released in late May for the general public, but by and large, the tickets have been bought.
So is that, you said that's kind of something new that you don't usually see. Is this like a record sellout?
By 3 months. You know, the last time we had to put a sign in the window that says we can't sell anymore was Florida Georgia Line in 2015. And that show sold out the week of. This thing, 3 months in advance, is just nobody's seen anything like that around here.
Do you think that it is a result of people just coming out of the pandemic, or do you think Luke Combs is just really that popular?
No, I think it's that popular. That package was going to sell out in late March last year. And then, of course, everything stopped. And then we refunded a bunch of tickets, and then those tickets got repurchased. So I think it would have sold out by the end of March last year as well. But to have it come back that quickly this year, I thought was rather extraordinary. I thought there'd be some more waiting to see what would happen in April and May. But I think that's a result of two things. One, I think there's cabin fever. And two, we took care of people that bought tickets from us last year and refunded them when we couldn't have the show. And so I think by doing business correctly and doing it the right way through last year, people understand if it doesn't happen, we'll take care of it. So I think there was a little confidence there because of that.
That's great.
That probably was a hard decision because you guys didn't have to do that, right, David?
Well, no, yes and no. I mean, technically no, because we didn't cancel the show. We just rescheduled the show. But to expect people to just sit there and hold concert tickets for a year, we thought was not the right thing to do. Plus, at that point, I mean, you got to remember, we didn't know how long people were not going to be allowed to go to work. Were they going to need that money? And so we felt like we wanted to be transparent with people. Yes, the concert was going to be rebooked, but if you needed a refund, we'd happily provide it for you. And about 35% of the tickets we had sold refunded, and about 65% held. So that was one of the reasons we were able to kind of get through this too, is people just left their tickets in the pot, and they're been rewarded this year because they didn't have to worry about it.
There's a good business lesson for all of us in that about doing things the right way and the confidence your customers have in you, I think.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're still, I mean, we're the state celebration, but we're a small town. We do business here. We have a lot of great partners here. We've been here for a long time. We want to be here for a lot longer. And so it was important to us to handle last year as correctly as we could. So, and that's the way we approached it.
So, David, will there be Cowboy Kickball again this year?
There will be.
This is one of our favorite events here at the bank.
Yeah.
We are a very competitive group, and it's devastating when we lose.
Yeah.
But we have so much fun playing.
Yeah. By and large, the calendar, and it's online. We actually we established April Fool's Day as kind of our go no go. So we kind of held off and were quiet through the first quarter this year, and that was really intentional to kind of let the vaccine rollout happen and just kind of see how the things were going to go. But yeah, I mean, the calendar will look very, very similar to what it looked like in 19. All the events are there. Kickball is there. We've added cornhole to that night as well. And so on the backside of the arena, there'll be a cornhole tournament going on. Microfest is back. Concerts are there. Kids Fun Fest is there. So yeah, it'll look fairly normal this year for people coming back out of the pandemic.
So fun.
Yeah.
I saw a video, Ty, online, and it was a version of kickball, but it was like slip and slide kickball.
Oh, good heavens.
So each base was a little inflatable pool, and then in between it was the slip and slides. It looked dangerous.
My knees hurt just thinking about that.
I mean,
it was hilarious.
The
though.
economic boom that our orthopedic unit at the hospital can have
Yes.
with
Well, it just seems like a bad idea.
that. It does.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a bad idea. I don't know.
Kickball in itself can be
Oh,
dangerous
man.
for me.
It's amazing how competitive that is.
It's so fun. It is
The
competitive.
people that get into that
Yeah.
are terribly competitive.
I didn't realize, honestly, how
Oh.
competitive I am until we started playing kickball for the bank. And I was, wow, it brings it out of me, that event.
It's fun to watch because we get to be the umpires for that thing. So it's kind of fun to just watch. And it's
You also get some hate sometimes too, I
there's
bet.
a little bit of that. Yeah. But we're kind of used to that sort of thing. So that's all right.
He got some from me a couple years ago, but anyway. Yeah. I just was thinking, David, I heard that this sellout thing for Luke Combs isn't necessarily all true, because my understanding is there's maybe 2 tickets that are still out there that maybe are in your vest pocket right now. Is that right?
They may be 2 tickets to the Luke Combs concert in my vest pocket as we speak.
Well, and I think, Danielle, you're sitting on a couple Toby Keith tickets, right?
That's correct.
So what are we going to do with these?
I think we can spin these in our trivia game somehow,
I
or
like it.
create a new trivia game.
Okay. I like it. How do you want to do it?
Can we get listeners involved? I would love to get something out there where our listeners would have a chance to win these tickets and maybe put them on the spot with trivia. What do you guys think?
You know what? I can come up with a question.
Okay.
So whenever you guys are, let me think about it for a minute. Whenever you guys are ready to do that, I'll have a question, and then we'll figure out some way for people to answer. And
How about this? Will you post your trivia question, David,
Mhm.
on the NEBRASKAland Bank Podcast Facebook page
Okay.
at NEBRASKAland Bank Podcast, and we'll do the first commenter to get the question correct will receive a set of tickets to Toby Keith.
Okay.
And then we'll do a drawing for the Luke Combs tickets. So even if you know the answer, see somebody else post post the answer on that page. While you're there, you might as well like our page.
There you go.
And yeah, we'll give away a set of tickets to each. How does that sound?
I think it sounds great. So I want to recap this. I'm always the
Yes.
recap guy on this. My job's
You
to
need-
clarify.
Which is good,
You
because
got
I can-
people on either side of him, and he just pulls it all back together. So
Yeah.
go ahead, recap what we just
Okay,
decided.
I'm gonna recap.
All right, here we
So
go.
the way I understand it, David's going to give us a question, and I think he should go ahead and do it on the air. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so David's going to give us the question on the air with no answer, and then people can go to our podcast Facebook page, right? And they're going to put the answer. Now, is that like in a message or is
In a
that
comment.
In a comment.
We're gonna
Comment.
comment
Yep,
on
in a
the
comment.
page.
Okay.
So they're going to put the answer, and whoever does it first after this podcast is released gets 2 tickets to Toby Keith, and then everybody that comments correctly will go into a drawing. Maybe we'll give that a few days.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give that a few days,
There you go.
and then everybody that goes into the drawing will get the big prize, which is the Luke Combs tickets, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
There you go.
Which
I like it.
think that's amazing. Thank you,
You're
David.
welcome. We're contractually bound to hold a bunch of tickets for the show, and we do have a pool of promotional tickets because that's what radio stations use and like. And there, I think there will be some additional inventory that gets released probably by the end of May, but it won't be a lot. I mean, I'm talking a couple hundred tickets, and so we'll announce all that stuff when it gets a little closer. Like, here's the date, here's the time, and it'll just be. It won't last 5 minutes, but it'll be fine. It'll be what we have.
Well, I think that's great. So we're going to have a couple winners here. Okay, so drum roll, David. What's the official trivia question for the contest?
Okay, so here we go. There are I know you know this because you've been around a long time, but there are a number of legends, country music legends who have played out at NEBRASKAland Days. So I've got the names of 6 legends, and only 5 of them have played the festival. Okay? So which of these 6 have never played NEBRASKAland Days? You ready?
Yeah.
Marty Robbins, Tanya Tucker, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings. Which of those 1 have not played NEBRASKAland Days?
Ooh, that's a stumper. Will you repeat those one more time?
I will. I'd be happy to. Marty Robbins, Tanya Tucker, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings. 5 of those 6 have played NEBRASKAland Days. 1 has not.
I don't know the answer, but I'm like, gosh, if Johnny Cash was here, that'd be an amazing concert to see.
That's a tough question, but that's a great question. It reminds you too of the history of how this came about. I was telling Danielle before the podcast that my grandpa, who's one of the owners at Swan's Furniture back from the early days, was part of the original group that went, and Mayor Whitaker, I think, was part of that group.
He was.
And there were a number of others, and they went and talked to the people in Lincoln about, hey, this celebration should go out to North Platte, where it should naturally fit. And that was, I think, in the late 1960s, right, David?
So the celebration actually kicked in 65, and in 67, they awarded it to North Platte, and it was first held out here in 68. So I like to joke it's the first, maybe the last thing the state of Nebraska has ever awarded North Platte. and at the time, not a lot of people know this, but Nebraska Game and Parks was in charge of state tourism at that time. And they had the Scouts Rest Ranch planned as a state historical park, and because it was not at the time. And so they sold them on this concept of having the festival located next to Scouts Rest Ranch. And so that was plus the Buffalo Bill Rodeo was here and had been well established as the oldest rodeo in the country. So it made for a pretty good tie-in.
Now, I think concerts kicked off in 1974 or 5, or what was the year roughly?
75, I believe, was the first year. And ironically, one of the names I read you was that first concert. And so it started from there, and it started small. It was a single act. And then the next year there were 2, and then it morphed into 2 nights. And then for a short time, there were 3 nights of concerts. And then it contracted back down to 2. But yeah, live entertainment's been a part of it since 75.
Be interested, and I know this is something you've talked a lot about publicly, but I'd be interested in how, when you guys are looking at that rock or classic rock versus country balance, or going more of an all-country celebration, how do you guys make that decision? Well,
we've probably taken more criticism for that decision than any other decision we've made in the last 20 years. And I was actually on the board when we were producing those shows, and they were some of my favorite shows to produce, but we produced 6 or 7 years in a row, some measure of either rock or something of that nature, and it wasn't working. And so we got to retreat that fall, and I had numbers in a spreadsheet, and here was the cost of the show, here's what we sold, and here was the end result. And there was a lot of red on the right column of that thing. And we passed it around the room, and I said, okay, if this was a private business and you were doing this, what would you do? And around the room, everybody said, well, we would quit doing that. And I said, okay, well, we need to be done producing these kinds of shows because this is the result. And we really focused on it. It was a business decision. And I love spreadsheets. I think you know that about me. Numbers in spreadsheets, there's no emotion attached to them. They're either good or they're bad, and there's very little in between. And so that was how that decision came about. And that's how we still make decisions. It has to work on paper, or we just don't do it.
Well, and I think an important thing that everybody should, I love a good classic rock show. You know that. But I have that opportunity to maybe once a year, I'm going to go to Lincoln or go to Denver and do that. But I think the decision you guys made maybe wasn't to eliminate the rock show, but it was to give yourselves the ability to enhance the country show by not having something that was a headwind for the celebration.
Right. And so the last year Toby was here was a great example. Toby was last year in 2012, and on the other side of that ticket, it was, I think it was Daughtry that year. And we nearly sold out the Toby show. It was a whisker away from selling out, and did really, really well on it. And turn around the next night and almost lost all of that back on that next night. And it was a great concert, but we didn't have enough people come out and buy tickets to the show. And so your consumers kind of make some of those decisions for you, right? I mean, we just said, okay, we got to walk away from this because it's festival's too important to squander it in that way.
Well, one thing from the bank side that's interesting about the festival is we have to bring a little more cash in to the festival. You wouldn't think about, how all that works related to banking, but there's a lot of cash that gets utilized in North Platte during the celebration. Danielle, how does this all tie to the bank? I mean, how do we tie back with NEBRASKAland days, and what do we do to help our customers with that?
Well, one thing that I can think of is just the convenience of our ATM location here at the main bank. I think when this building was being designed, the thought that went into how to make traffic flow and that convenience it's incredible. And the ATM is a good example of that because it's double-sided. One side is higher for somebody in a larger profile vehicle. One side is lower for somebody in a car, a smaller vehicle. And you can enter and exit from either direction and then get back on the one-ways in either direction. So I think it's incredible that the thought that went into that design. So yeah, I think that's one area, and that's great it's so conveniently located for people coming into town. Mm-hmm. We also here at the bank are a member of MoneyPass, which is helpful when you're here, even if you're from a different community traveling here. If your bank is part of the MoneyPass network, then you have access to over 32,000 surcharge-free ATMs across the nation. They're super easy to find. You just go to our website and click the locator, put in the zip code of where you're at, and then you can easily find any MoneyPass ATM.
Yeah, MoneyPass is pretty cool. So if I'm out of town and need to use an ATM, I can go to a MoneyPass ATM and save some fees, and then people coming from out of town to North Platte can do the same thing at our ATMs. I think of our bank having the most perfect ATM coverage for I'm going to the NEBRASKAland concerts and I need money. Okay, I've got the two options with different heights here at our main bank. Our North branch, have a big presence on the north side of town. So our North branch can catch that sector, and then the whole southwest portion of town can use Westfield.
Absolutely.
So we're going to make sure they're full and ready to go, David.
Yeah.
Well, and if you're downtown for one of the food events, there's the downtown branch ATM as well, mm-hmm. which I've hit several times. But it really is remarkable how much cash passes through us, and then conversely back through here. And I know your cash management folks just love it when I send the email every year about how much change money we're going to need. I see their eyes get bigger every year when that comes through. So they do a great job for us, and we appreciate that service. So thank you for that.
That's something they take really seriously. I mean, it's funny because you guys are out and you're running a show or a concert, and the last thing you need to worry about is that. Mm. And so it's just, I mean, that's what banking's about. Banking's providing the support to commercial businesses and organizations so they can do their job.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
That's cool.
Okay, well, let's start my favorite part of the episode, our trivia game. So, David, I know you've listened to a couple episodes.
I have.
But for the listeners thinking if this is your first time tuning in, this is how this works. We are going to give David a series of 3 trivia questions. If he gets 2 of the 3 correct, then he gets $100 to award to a charity of his choice. If he gets the majority wrong, then that $100 stays in the pot, and our next guest will come on to play for $200.
I'm not good at trivia.
You're going to do great.
Well, okay. And I do just want to put a little heat on you here. Our last guest, Lauren Cook, killed it in this area, and she was amazing. So just so you know.
Okay, very good. So no pressure. So I'm following Lauren Cook.
Yes.
And she killed the trivia section.
Yeah, those are both accurate.
This is okay. Well, all right.
I think you're going to do well.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit differently, and we're going to do a Name That Tune.
Oh, heavens.
And these are past NEBRASKAland Days performers.
Okay.
And so I'm going to play just a little bit of the song.
Okay.
Like 10 seconds or so.
Okay.
And then cut it off, and you can guess who
am I going to
hear
the
performer
this?
is.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Is it the artist that he has to name, or the song, or is it
the art? Let's do artist.
The artist.
All right.
Okay, here is the first one.
That'd be Alan Jackson.
Okay, good job.
I hope they're going to get harder than that.
That was an easy one.
There you go.
What's the song name?
Chattahoochee.
Okay, good job. Okay, let's do this one.
Oh, Lordy.
Alone again tonight.
Is that Brian White? She had to use Brian White, didn't she?
It is right. I gave you a huge clue.
I haven't heard Brian White, honestly, since a couple of years after that show. And
I don't know
was,
what happened to him.
And that was one of the biggest shows we've ever had. That was back in the area where they just kind of go print another 100 tickets. There were a lot of people in that place for that show. That Brian White Liam's Rhymes package was huge.
You know, I think Brian White figured it out. That guy came out, put out a phenomenal album. Maybe he had one or two tricklers, I'm not sure. And then I think he simplified his life after that.
There's a lot to be said for that.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's clearly a nice guy. I mean, to
and
grab some silly teenager, or not even teenagers, preteens.
And there's so many of those people that tour that are great people, and you hear horror stories a lot, but most of the people we work with are really, really cool. So that's great that he did that.
Okay, so here's the last one. Technically, you've already got the first two right, so you get the $100, but let's do this one just for fun.
Okay. Ooh. I don't know that one. I don't know that tune. Okay, let me know. Who is it?
That would be Luke Combs.
Really?
Yes.
Is that one of his new ones?
That's his first song.
I didn't hear that one.
I just Googled first Luke Combs song, The Way She Rides.
I never have heard that song.
I've never heard it either. And I'm a big Luke Combs fan. I've never heard that song.
Gotcha on that one.
Dang it.
You still win $100. So, David, who would we like to donate to today?
I love the North Platte Public Schools Foundation. I've been on that board. It's a great mission they have, and Terry's doing a great job over there. So I think that's probably a worthy recipient.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, David, we so much appreciate you being here today. We wish you the best with the celebration. I know you're going to get a few curveballs with this health stuff out there, but I think you guys are up to the challenge, and we just appreciate everything you do.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come visit about it, and we're looking forward to June. There's a lot of years people ask me, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" I don't know. And this year I'm ready. We're going. We're excited to do it. So,
well, thank you for coming, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in. Today's episode is brought to you by NEBRASKAland National Bank. We are a member FDIC and equal housing lender. Don't forget to go to our NEBRASKAland Bank Facebook page to answer the trivia question for a chance to win a set of either Luke Combs tickets or Toby Keith tickets. While you're there, become a fan, leave us a review. We appreciate you tuning in to the NEBRASKAland Bank podcast, community-minded, every voice, every topic, every time.